Hello everyone, back with defensive pattern number 3, defensive hide and seek. So what is this pattern all about? Well, here you're getting attacked, right? So instead of taking the pawn and opening yourself up to all of this A-file pressure, you sidestep and use your opponent's pawn as a shield. Now this phrase might be familiar to some of you. It's a very important chess idea and a very important defensive idea, defensive pattern that you should know about. And in Blitz and Bullet, like, you should play it in, and even in classical, like, okay, classical maybe you consider a bit more, but you should just play it immediately, because in very few cases is it right to take the pawn. Usually just sidestep, especially in these opposite sides castling positions, and avoid all of the trouble that comes with opening up of the A or H files. So one thing to remember here is that sometimes here, or usually, there's a rook here protecting this A pawn. So you need to be careful of the back rank, because if a queen or rook come here, then you're getting checkmated. Queen or rook comes here, you're getting checkmated. So do keep that in mind. So how does the pattern play out here? You just play king a1 and avoid all of this trouble we've talked about. And now for our sample game. So we get to see a Sicilian canito, and here the position gets really wild with this rook g1 stuff. Opposite sides castling, and eventually white crashes through first, but black is also in time, and now they push here, bishop h3, bishop d takes a2 check, and now king a1. Of course here you don't even have the option to take because of d4 check, with a discovered attack winning the bishop. But yeah, it's always, even if that tactic weren't available, it's almost always correct to just play king a1 as we've discussed. And here we get to see some piece maneuvers, and now it turns out that queen f2 actually was the game losing blunder, or not game losing blunder, but it was a big blunder here that gave black an advantage. Here white is actually completely winning. They're very stable here. They have a very strong dark squared bishop. The knights are well placed, and the rook, well, it's doing a great job, and the bishop here, all the pieces are well placed. Queen h5 here would have been much better, but white played queen f2. And yes, I'm showing you here a loss, but we don't really care about the result or what happened. And I probably analyzed too much by telling you about that queen h5 stuff, but hey, yeah, so we just care about the position, the way it plays out earlier. And yeah, white was winning with this king a1 stuff earlier. So here king a1 was a nice defensive resource, and again, not the only move, but it's nice here. And yeah, white is definitely winning here. The problem is they blundered later, but yeah, it's a very complicated position. Anyway, let's go for our test. So another very complicated position, arising this time from the French defense, which you wouldn't usually think of as being this dynamic, but hey, even with one pair of pieces traded, and yeah, even with one pair of pieces traded, and the fact that it's French, it's still very dynamic. And here taking. Alright, so the test here is whether or not you should take. Should you take on a2 or should you go to a1? That's the big question here. And if you do believe that playing a1 is far superior to taking on a2, please let me know what you think of king takes a2. Is it bad? Is it losing? Is it just a bit worse? What about king takes a2? So yeah, with that, pause the video guys and try to find out what's the best move. Okay, so let's go for the full game here. Actually, I skipped through the opening. I like to repeat the opening, so let's just do that very quickly here. Very nice line of the French for white. And here, actually in the game, king a1 was played, and according to the engine, that's the correct move. However, the difference between king a1 and king takes a2 is not so big. Engine wise, it's barely perceptible, and human wise, I don't think you're going to notice much of a difference in practical games. However, of course, if you do take, you're going to be under a lot more pressure because, well, for example, after a3, if you play b3, like sacrificial ideas with knight takes b3 and this stuff, these become much more possible with the king being here. Now, if the king were here, however, after b3, you're not running into these sacrificial ideas immediately. So, yeah, it's of course dangerous from a human perspective, and king a1 is definitely what should be played. But king takes a2, not a game-losing blunder. So in this position, if you as black see king takes a2, you'd think two things. Maybe your opponent doesn't know about the pattern, or the second thing, they're really trying to troll you. But in both cases, you don't have a punishment handy. So anyway, let's take a look at how the game proceeded. Here white played really well, sacrificing. I mean, this is again very stable for white, no chance for black to break through. And here they win this knight here, and now rook e7 seals the black king, and queen h8 is unpreventable checkmate. Of course, you can sacrifice the queen, but that's not helping, of course. So very nice game here. Yeah, that's about it for this pattern. Very interesting pattern, very important pattern everyone should know about. So yeah, I hope you guys can remember this pattern and use it in your own games. With that, thanks for watching, guys.